Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Utah State Senate for District 8 debate. I appreciate everybody being here today. My name is Mike Brock, and I'm going to be your moderator for tonight's debate. I would like to say a special thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Better Utah Institute for sponsoring tonight's debate. Next, I would like to go over the debate format and the rules for tonight. For the introductions, each candidate will have 5 minutes. The order is going to be determined by a random name generator, and Kathleen is going to go first based on that. We picked her name. Next, we will have a Q&A session. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each of the 6 questions posed by me. 4 of those questions are coming from the League of Women Voters, and 2 of the questions are coming from the audience. After that, there will be time for rebuttals. So each candidate will be given 4 rebuttal opportunities. Each one, it will be no longer than 30 seconds. Candidates will be offered a rebuttal if, in my judgment, an answer from one candidate is specifically targeted at their opponent. Candidates may also request a rebuttal if they believe it is warranted based on that criteria. Throughout the debate, I will track the approximate amount of speaking time utilized by each candidate and make every reasonable effort to ensure that there's an equitable distribution of time. Each candidate will be given 5 minutes for their closing arguments. And at this time, I would like to introduce our timekeeper, Janice Mosby. Janice is with the League of Women Voters, and we appreciate her time here tonight and helping us with the time. The way the time will work is candidates will receive time signals by time cards at the following times: at 30 seconds, at 15 seconds, at 5 seconds, and then when time has expired. If a candidate is still talking, when we say time has expired, I will hold up my hand if needed, at which time the candidate may conclude their sentence, but then they'll need to stop. I would now like to introduce our 2 candidates. For a Republican, Brian Zehnder is on the Republican side, and the Democratic candidate is Kathleen Riebe. At this time, we will go ahead and start the debate. And Kathleen, you will have now 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody who's out there in the Facebook world joining us tonight. My name is Kathleen Riebe. I am a 20-year veteran Granite School District teacher. I have 2 kids that attend the local public school in Albion, Brighton. While we are not in school, we like to enjoy all the activities that make Utah fantastic. We ski and bike and hike and run rivers, and so we enjoy living in Utah tremendously. I received my undergraduate degree from Hofstra University with a sociology degree and an education degree. I received my master's and my administrative certificate from Utah State University, go Aggies. And I have an ed tech endorsement from Southern University. I spent 2 years on the state school board, and I was elected there. I was on the finance committee. While I was on the finance committee, we worked to create internet equity across the state. One of the concerns we saw was that some of our rural areas did not have internet access. And as we have moved through this pandemic, it's been really exciting to see the fruits of my labor really help out our students that are in some of these rural areas, but also in some of our neighborhoods that didn't have robust internet. So that has been a great thing to see come to fruition. Another thing that we worked on was transparency. That is a question that I still receive all the time when it comes to education. So while I was on the state school board, we came up with mechanisms that would allow more transparency for not only our schools to record that money more accurately, but also for our stakeholders to understand where that money was going. These betterments have actually saved taxpayers money because we are not duplicating reports and we are not spending our money incorrectly, and we can actually find when there is money that is coded incorrectly. As a senator, I have met with my city officials, my school board members, and I have attended their meetings. I've tried to build a relationship with every school and city council that I am a part of. And during the special session, I reached out to them and asked them about specific legislation to make sure that we are protecting our tax dollars. It's funny that like education touches everything. And so when you create an education bill or a tax increment bill or a healthcare bill, it really has an impact on our education and vice versa. So those have been interesting to work with my local leaders with. During my legislation as a senator, I have run bills regarding car safety, education, air quality, search and rescue. And I am working with both sides of the aisle to deal with this pandemic and some of the other struggles in our community. I think these relationships have paid off so that when there is some kind of need to pass legislation or make a statement, I have their numbers, I feel comfortable calling them, and they feel comfortable calling me. My priorities are education, healthcare, environmental impacts. And as a teacher, I have met with families and I've watched their kids grow all across the valley. Their challenges span all the areas. There's nothing unique to any one family or one area. We all really want what's best for our kids, and we want what's best for our families, and we want what's best for our health. So as I have immersed myself in these communities, I've learned that there is not one thing that is unique to any area. I have wanted to thank all the people in my area for electing me these last 2 years. It's been an incredible opportunity to serve. I look forward to spending the next 4 years serving you again. I have been honored by the people of Midvale, Cottonwood Heights, and parts of Sandy, Holiday, and Mill Creek. I look forward to passing legislation this upcoming session, if I'm given the opportunity, on refunding the police and finding a way that we can provide more mental health opportunities if that's what the police departments would like. I am working on trying to create some consumer protections and also with some air quality. So thank you again for trusting me these last 2 years, and hopefully I can gain your trust again and serve again these next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Brian, you now have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Great. Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening and to visit with people online as well. My name is Brian Zehnder. I'm happily married. I have 3 children, and I've been a busy family physician for almost 30 years now. We've been here in Utah. I did my undergraduate training in Detroit, Michigan, my residency in family medicine at the University of Utah, and have been both a businessman, small business, as well as a family doc, and love everything that Utah has to offer. I'll direct you to my website for more personal information about me and my family. But suffice it to say, the reason that I decided to run again, to run this year, is because I was up at the legislature on the last day of the session, and that was right when the COVID-19 was kind of coming up to a forefront. And I said, and there was people shaking hands and hugging and doing things, and I thought to myself, goodness gracious, we need to have some medical expertise back on the Hill. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring because we really need to have some medical expertise on the Hill. Of course, we're all wondering right now, will we ever get back to normal? And remember, just think about not having COVID-19, seeing somebody and giving them a hug. The normal feels a long way away. But I do believe we can get back with the right people. And who are those people? And those are people that uniquely understand healthcare. A study from the recent Utah Foundation showed that healthcare is the #1 concern for voters, followed by taxes, education, and the environment. All issues involve health. So if we take care of our health, everything else recovers. How do we do that? First, our economy is a health issue. Unemployed people have more depression and suicide. They see their doctor more often, they take more medication. So how about more employers provide for on-site daycare and counseling? You know, COVID-19 jolted our economy. Over 150,000 people lost their jobs. Sometimes some of them lost their jobs forever. Well, we had a telehealth and drive-by COVID testing, and now we actually hired more people, and now we serve our community better. Second, our education is a health issue. Let's just put politics aside. You know, the question is, should learning occur online or on site, or a combination of both? And I do believe that parents are experts for raising their kids. And what do our parents need? They need science, data, and facts. Two critical factors include the trends in the average number of new cases per 100,000 and the percentage of positive tests. And some districts in Utah have low numbers, so children are generally safe in school, and other districts have higher numbers, and those kids might be better taught online. So data drives behavior. Teachers know it, and so do we. We did back to school physicals this summer in my office, and we found that many children want to be in school. As a family doc, parents trust me. Kids do too. And lawmakers, like doctors, need to be good listeners. Third, our environment is a health issue. Poor air quality causes health effects such as eye and lung irritation. Asthma worsens when particulate matter levels are high. And seeing patients tied to oxygen tubing motivates me to push for change. We need to incent things like solar and electric vehicles. And then finally, COVID-19 is clearly a health issue. The disease spreads from person to person. It's worse than the flu. It kills quicker. Treatment is limited. You know, we are treading water trying to spread the infection until a vaccine comes to the rescue. But will it? We're not sure. During the pandemic, our leaders made some wise decisions and some unwise. But rather than looking back, let's focus on learning and preparing for the next pandemic. Yes, there will be another. So the question is, how do we get back to normal? Well, first, we need to bring our supply chains home. When the next crisis occurs, we purchase and mobilize resources. Why do we want to rely on China during the next wave? Utah knows the importance of storehouses, so let's build one to store critical supplies such as masks and gowns, so our frontline workers can work without fear. Elected leaders who fail to plan for COVID-20 will cause us all to suffer. So what do you need in a medical pandemic? You need doctors. Let's form the next pandemic task force with medical experts. A doctor's advice for a sore throat gets you back to work. In the same way, elected doctors will get Utah back to work healthier and sooner. So first, we need to elect candidates who know what it takes to keep a business thriving in both good times and bad. We need to elect candidates who see what parents see, who listen, who give the sound advice based on the best science. We need to elect candidates who give more than just lip service.
Your 5 minutes are up, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with the first question here. Brian, this is going to go to you. Many of your constituents have been struggling, and even more so because of the pandemic. What steps will you take to address the inequalities in housing and income in the short term and long term?
Yeah, I see people struggling in my office each and every day that when they come into the office and they're struggling to make ends meet. And it's real sad when I see people that come in with their kids or with their family members that are working paycheck to paycheck to try to put food on the table. It's one of the biggest struggles I see is when parents are really trying to figure out, well, do I keep my kids at home because maybe I believe that they're safer at home, but they're not getting good education at home, or do I put them to school, send them to school so I'm able to work and put money, put food on the table for our children. So a lot of single mothers, a lot of single parents, many single parents are struggling with getting their needs met. So we definitely need to make sure that our parents, our children, they have the support systems necessary so that they can do some creative things to make sure they're able to take care of their families as well as keep their kids in school as much as possible.
Thank you, Brian. And Kathleen, same question. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So housing equity across our state has been addressed at the legislature. Jake Anderegg passed a bill that would create a plan that all cities would have to have a plan for different levels of housing and different amounts of money that would be required to live in that housing. Right now, the market is going through the roof. People are recognizing that they don't want to live in cities anymore, and they might want to be moving out to their suburbs, and we can all telecommute more. So this is creating a big strain on our economy and our housing situation for our struggling citizens. Housing is a place where you feel safety, security, and it allows you to regenerate from the day that you've just had. So housing is a really important problem in our community. Cottonwood Heights had a housing plan, and they were going to build some high density housing that modified and went back and then was taken off the table with the referendum. So finding that balance between high density living and then also having everybody have their own houses with a piece of land is something that we're all trying to figure out. Also how we can create a situation where people are not in their cars, but also working to get on mass transit to keep our air quality low. So this is something that we're still working on, but there has been inroads. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, this is the second question, and we're going to start with you, Kathleen, on this question. Utah ranks last in the nation as per pupil spending. It's not just increasing spending that's needed, but there are many students being underserved. What is your plan to increase funding and strengthen equality to all students?
Thank you. We have been last in the nation for a long time. And as a teacher, I can tell you that there are some struggles with that number. It is hard to retain and keep good teachers in Utah. And especially with this current pandemic, many teachers retired and left the profession because they felt unsafe. We have to be really smart with our money, and we need to focus it really carefully on the most important situations and causes. In our classrooms, we have kids that are falling farther and farther behind, and we have mechanisms to measure who needs the most remediation, and then who can move forward with less remediation. We have worked really hard to come up with some preschool alternatives for parents who would like that. Parents are their best advocates and their best choice for best person to make that choice. But we really need to work on getting the students the things they need as soon as they show that they need them. We are working towards maybe making a mechanism where the funding would be more direct, and we can take out some of the red tape by creating pathways that just take out more administrative. I think, just worked to get rid of 30 reports that were unnecessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Same question to you, Brian.
Yes, thank you. You know, Utah has probably the highest, I don't know if it's the highest number, but one of the highest percentage of children in the United States. And so the amount of money that we spend per pupil is relatively small compared to other parts of the country. But Utah does rank last in per pupil spending. And it's clear that from my point of view, that needs to change. We need to make sure that we're paying our teachers well, because we want to recruit the best teachers for the best state in the country. But we don't want to just throw money at the problem. We want to make sure that the funds that we're using towards education are being spent wisely. We don't want teachers to have to take money out of their own pockets to come up with school supplies so that their children can learn. That's also very, very important. I'm in favor of school choice. I believe there's more than one way to teach a child the way they should grow. And so I believe that the our public school systems are excellent, but there are other alternatives, such as charter schools, that can be another way for our children to get educated. And that's becoming more and more important with the COVID-19 outbreak, and more parents want to take their children out of their direct public school system and educate them in other ways.
Right, thank you, Brian. Okay, this next question, we'll start with you, Brian, on this one. The League of Women Voters has actively supported the 2018 Proposition 4 for an independent redistricting commission. Do you support making any further changes to the proposition, and how would you go about choosing a member of the newly formed redistricting commission?
Yeah, that's a fairly short answer. I am in support of the Proposition 4 for redistricting. The most important thing to me with regards to that is that we're transparent, that people are held accountable, and that we make sure we work on both sides of the aisle to make sure whoever is selected as to be part of that process is unbiased and can make the best decision for the state and making sure we have fair elections and redistricting.
Great, thank you. Same question to you, Kathleen.
Thank you. I also support Proposition 4. The redistricting has been an interesting process. We are going to be looking to deal with the factors that affect this, which is our population, race, and using traditional principles that we have used in the past by thinking about preservation of our previous boundaries so that people don't have to be in another election or choose another senator or representative before their term was up. We are looking forward to our census data to see where this is going. And the members that we are going to put on this committee need to be vetted, and they need to be somebody who is willing to work across the aisle and also have some understanding of how these laws affect each community. Some of the things that I've heard in the past are that I have too many representatives and it's gerrymandered. Well, sometimes it's better to have a piece of the pie with more representation than just one senator. So I've learned a lot during this process, and I hope that we can find people that can understand all the integral parts that go with having a redistricting year.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, your fourth question, we'll start with you, Kathleen, on this one. HB 411, the legislature's roadmap to cleaner air and renewable energy, is a great first step. However, we still have year-round air pollution that threatens Utah's economy and residents' health. The majority of clean energy bills have failed. What are your plans to address the need to transition to clean energy?
Thank you. Yesterday, I was speaking to a constituent named Steve, and he lives really closely to a gravel pit in my area. We were talking about how in Salt Lake County, we have an air sensor that is being monitored for particulate matters and pollution. I think that we have a lack of understanding where our pollution is coming and what's in our pollution. And if we can start to spend more money studying how this pollution is affecting us from different sources. We've worked to create better stipends for people who are using electric cars, and we're using solar energy, and we're trying to remove small engines with gas and water heaters. So we have been making steps. We have the Clean Air Caucus, who spends a lot of time getting people together to talk about some of the issues that are at hand and educate both sides of the aisle. It's kind of an exciting caucus to attend because it's all parties and all people and all different parts of the state that are coming together to try to figure out how we can not only protect our air, but protect our water. And these things have long impacts on our families. If you're living in a polluted area, they've discovered that your DNA strands are shortened, which causes your lifespan to be shortened. So it's something that we all need to be working on and aggressively finding solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Same question to you, Brian.
Yeah, clean air. I am passionate about clean air here in our state. You know, it's been almost 50 years since the Clean Air Act of 1970, and that got rid of some of the, sulfur levels and dioxides, but the problem that we still are struggling with in our country is carbon dioxide. And as we all know, that's, fossil fuels. And so improving our fossil fuel efficiency and getting rid of that carbon dioxide in our environment is so critically important. When I see people in my office that are struggling to breathe because they're on oxygen, it really motivates me for change. Certainly, there are a lot of things that we can be doing and have been doing, increasing the efficiency of our appliances, incentivizing the use of solar panels and electric vehicles. And I personally drive an electric vehicle, and then there's this concept called carbon sequestration, where we actually take the carbon dioxide that's made in industries and then we properly store it underground so that that limits the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Right. Thank you, Brian. Okay, we've come to the part of the debate where we've reached out to the audience to get some questions from them, and we'll start with you, Brian, on this one. So the question is, how would you impact decisions at the legislature to move Utah away from extraction industries that negatively impact our climate and air?
How would I impact, how would I change the decision-making process? Was that the question?
I'll read it again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. How would you impact decisions at the legislature to move Utah away from extraction industries that negatively impact our climate and air?
Oh, that's a very good question. And it really comes down to making sure we have the science, the data, and the facts given by experts in that area to make sure that we're making wise decisions. We want to make sure we bring people from all sides of the table. I'm very much a decision maker by consensus. So I like to get as many experts in a room as possible to come up with the best solutions. And oftentimes that means negotiation, and you don't always get everything you want, but you want to make sure that you're getting an outcome that everyone can agree to, even if they're not completely satisfied, but we're inching the needle forward towards a better environment for us to enjoy for both ourselves and for our children.
Thank you, Brian. Same question to you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Mike. So extraction in Utah is really a two-pronged struggle. So part of the struggle is that it's also based on our economy and jobs. So if we start to reduce extraction, we are reducing jobs, and that's a really big factor in the state. As we start to reduce extraction or create cleaner extraction or recognized extraction, I think we need to start investing in re-education opportunities. We need to invest in education opportunities down in our rural areas and some of these places where maybe there aren't as many education opportunities. We also need to look at how we can do these extractions cleaner. Our world likes to buy things and we like to build things. So there has to be a fine line between how we can extract things cleanly, but also replace the jobs that are going to be reduced when we are not having these industries extract as robustly. We also are working really hard in the state of Utah to bring new technologies to the state so that we can have jobs in our rural areas. The port is now having hubs, and those hubs actually can create jobs that are different and are not always based on extraction. So I'd like to make sure that we hold those people harmless, but also grow the economy at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, this next question, again, is from the audience. And we'll start with you first, Kathleen, on this one. The current legislature attempted to make a tax change to increase the taxation of food items, but repealed the bill only after a voter referendum forced them to rethink. What will be your position on future attempts to increase taxes?
Thank you, Mike. I was not part of that tax commission, but I did go all around the state of Utah listening to what people were saying at these meetings. I did not see much support in any part of the state for this tax bill. When it started, it actually was a better bill than when it had been modified through all of these meetings. We invested a lot of time and a lot of energy into going all across the state. I think there were 12 meetings. I did not support this bill because I didn't think that we should be taxing food. There was a gas tax that was going to really hurt small businesses overwhelmingly. And as we made this tax bill change, we actually started hurting our smaller companies and our citizens more and protecting our companies more. And so there needs to be some mechanisms changed in our taxing structure, but I don't think that current plan was a good one when it came to the end of its cycle. I'm ready to make some changes, and I'm willing to explore some of those options, but that last referendum I supported, and I don't think that tax bill, when it ended, was a good one. So thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Same question to you, Brian.
It's a great question. I am not in favor, generally, of increasing taxes, except for things that are essential for the functioning of our state, like education, police, safety, things of that nature. Not in support of putting additional taxes on food as well. I was quite surprised that they had that in the legislation proposal. I'd like to say that I have, when I was involved with the Senate in the past, I received a 100% scorecard as a Friend of the Taxpayer Award by the association. And I take that seriously. Any increase in taxes need to be used wisely. We need to make sure that when we're taxing things, we have to understand that we're getting less of whatever we're taxing. And so it's important that any tax that we would be adding for any services at all would be for essential services for the citizens of our state, requiring a consensus building approach with as many stakeholders as possible.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, we've come to the point in the debate now for closing statements, and we will start with Brian. You have 5 minutes for your closing statements.
I'll try to make sure I'm within that 5 minutes. I do apologize for the opening. You know, we are struggling right now as a state, as we know, with the Utah corona infections and the fallout from that. And as of September, we had over 50,000 cases and over 450 deaths now. And you know, the question we need to be asking ourselves is, who do you go to when you're sick? A lawyer, a teacher, a real estate agent? Well, the answer is obvious. You go to a medical professional, you go to a doctor. Yet when COVID hit us and Utah got sick, we did the opposite. We turned to well-intentioned politicians to make critical decisions for our family's health that had downstream effects on our economy. The legislatures are doing the best they can, but they're not doctors. You know, if we had at least one doctor in the Senate, how would COVID-19 have been different for Utah? For one thing, a voice of medical reason may have prevented errors made by other lawmakers who didn't know the science. Decisions were made by lawyers, teachers, and developers, but no Senate doctors. You may be wondering, well, what decisions? Well, how about the $800,000 hydrochloroquine purchase? How about the app that asks visitors in cars to provide personal information? How about the back and forth between counties in the state over lockdowns and mask wearing? And that's still going on. It's all well-intentioned, but it's not always based on the best science. If Utah elected a doctor The medical advice for adopting wise health policy would make our laws better and get us back to work sooner and more healthy. Following medical advice leads to healthier outcomes and minimizes economic impact. If you follow your doctor's advice for pneumonia, you get better and return to work sooner. When the pandemic hit, Utah lawmakers made good initial decisions. So schools switched to home schooling, we closed restaurants, and many people began working from home. After the initial wave subsided, lawmakers forgot the wisdom of the medical experts. And you know what happened? A dreaded second spike. And today we had another record. A few days of one policy or another matters. Science matters. In the future, Utah must continue to heed the advice of the medical experts when it comes to the next wave or pandemic. And yes, there will be another one. After Utah recovers from being sick, we must take measures to make sure we stay healthy and avoid a relapse, strengthening our supply chains, preparing a rapid response for the next future problems, and electing lawmakers from a variety of backgrounds that are accountable to each other and to the voters of Utah. This is your only chance to make sure at least one of these lawmakers is a doctor. I humbly ask for your vote of confidence on November 3rd.
Thank you, Brian. Kathleen, you now have 5 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you, Mike. I agree with some of the things that my opponent says. We definitely did need to listen to the scientists, and we still should be listening to our scientists. But we also need to be listening to the people in our communities. I've reached out to my principal, Brandon. I reached out to a business leader named Chad, and I reached out to a constituent named Stephen. And all of these people are struggling at very different levels. Our supermajority has all that information, and they are choosing to move the needle sometimes and also ask people to use local control and then maybe go back to the scientists. And so it's an issue that affects many, many people. As a female senator that's a teacher in the legislature, I am part of the minority, and I am part of the dissent from what's being said in our legislature right now. The minority has the job of holding the line and asking those questions. And so as a minority member, I have reached out to my constituents to help me make policies that affect them. Our supermajority struggles with reaching out to that community sometimes because they are the supermajority. So as a female candidate, I have brought diversity to the legislature. Legislature needs more diversity, not just males and females, but all different types of voices. So I hope that I can support the people of Senate District 8 again with diversity and relationships and reaching out and dissent from some of the policies that are being made. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. This concludes the debate for the Utah State Senate for District 8. I would like to thank Brian Zehnder and Kathleen Riebe for a great debate tonight. I really appreciate you being here. I'd also like to thank again the League of Women Voters and the Better Utah Institute for sponsoring tonight's debate. And with that, I will close and make sure you go out and vote. And thank you so much. Take care.